Hello everybody, welcome to the Chensor Dynasty here on twitch.tv/jchensor. My name is James Chen, aka your host of the Chensor Dynasty. Welcome to an episode of the Chen Reaction. Actually the first one in a while. Last week was kind of an interesting week. Didn't really have a chance to do a lot of Chen reactions, but we're back. And I want to talk about the Street Fighter League. Street Fighter League has just announced all of the 6 teams that are going to be showing up this season, and it's a wildly different thing than the past few teams that we saw. Not only have they opened up to international, that is not Japan, but they've come up with these themed teams, and some of these teams right now are really kind of broken. I mean, the level and quality of players as the team are just, I mean, compared to the previous seasons. And yes, Shigon, I will get to that, Zygon, at one point, because I definitely want to talk about that. But let's take a look at what the teams are here in the Street Fighter League this season. I mean, if you look at these teams, we'll go through these one by one. And like I said, some of these teams are absolutely bonkers. Here, I'm going to slide on over here like so. No, that was the wrong way. Ah, yes, there we go. Okay, I'll shove myself to this. So, if you look at the teams over here on the side here, we've got Team UYU, which is comprised of NL, Oil King, and Kami. Now, first of all, the first thing to talk about here is how interesting that they actually have this themed team. They have a UYU team here, and I actually think that's kind of cool. It was interesting. David and I tried to go through other teams that could potentially show up here, and sadly enough, fighting game teams don't really, there's really not a lot of fighting game teams anymore. So it's kind of unfortunate, but I love the idea of having a UYU team there. I think that's super cool. And then Psycho Shinobi. It's an interesting name for a team because at first when I saw the Shinobi, I was like, oh, okay, they're just trying to do all the ninjas, because look at Chen with the Buki and Infectious with Zeku and Hot Dog. Bison's not a ninja. But I guess that's why it's Psycho Shinobi, because then the Psycho represents the M. Bison part of it. So we've got Psycho Shinobi here. And this is going to be a pretty buff team. We've already seen what Hot Dog and Infectious just beat Punk at Kemono Michi 3. Chen, of course, one of the greatest scientists of all time. Team All In with Capcom Cup champion Idom, one of the best from the EU, Phenom, and 801 Strider. 801 Strider, who is also just one of the strongest G's that we have currently. Team Alpha 3. This is like Team Young Guns over here. This is a Punk, Nephew, and CJ Truth. I don't think any of these guys are older than Street Fighter. Street Fighter is definitely older than all 3 of these guys, and it's pretty crazy. I mean, that's probably true for a lot of these teams. I'm probably underestimating just how old Street Fighter is at this point, because there's definitely a lot of young... Street Fighter's been around for a while. In fact, a lot of these players, what actually blows my mind is that most of these people who are playing Street Fighter these days don't know what a world is like where Street Fighter never existed. When they were born, Street Fighter was already a thing that just existed. And it just like completely warps my mind, because for me, Street Fighter was like almost halfway through my life that it showed up. And you know, these people are all like, oh yeah, Street Fighter's been here since I was born. Oh God, it's crazy. Then there's Team Dynamite, which a lot of people are, I think, picking to be the strongest team. I mean, you put Problem X and Knuckle Dew on any team together, and already that's a problem. But then you add Smug to this thing. So Dynamite with Problem X, Knuckle Dew, and Smug are going to wiggity wash just about every team, it feels like. I mean, this team is busted. That is a crazy team. I'm not sure. Yeah, this is going to be a cruel team. However, I'm not going to look past Team Nasser. They announced Team Nasser before they announced Team Dynamite. And when I saw Team Nasser, I thought Team Nasser was going to be broken as hell. I already thought Team Nasser was going to be broken as hell, but here you go. We've got Angry Bird, Big Bird, and they added XSK Samurai. I mean, everyone's already joked that they should call him Calm Bird or Zen Bird, just for this season. And I feel like that's an accurate thing. We need to call Samurai, XSK Samurai, or just Samurai, I should say. We should call Samurai Zen Bird. And I think that would Bald Bird. Oh, man. Come on, K-Danger. Come on, man. You can't do that to him. Oh, man. But, yeah, I guess that would work. Bald bird, bald eagle. But what's interesting here, yeah, like I said, these are some really, really sick teams. Now, of course, there's none of the Japanese players here because the Japanese have their own league, SFL league. And so what they're setting up for this one, instead of being Japan versus US, they're trying to set up Japan versus the world. So, yeah, so you can see on Team UIU, we've got Taiwan, we've got Korea and US. And then on Psycho Shinobi, we have US, Hong Kong, and Singapore. Then on Team All In, we've got US, and oh gosh, I always want to say it was Norway, right? Phenoms from Norway. I always say the Netherlands because they both begin with N, and I always get confused. Yeah, Infectious is UK. Infectious is U. Did I say US? Did I say US? I meant UK. Ah, jeez. Okay, I meant UK. That is definitely my fault. Again, I switch words up very well. Now, what's interesting is that Alpha 3, I think, is the only team that has everybody from the same country, which is US, US, and US. Or I should say UK, 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 just to be fair. Dynamite, US, UK, and US. And then Nasser Esports, of course, is UAE, UAE, and US. So there you go. So yeah, like I said, Team Alpha 3 is that's such a funny name, Alpha 3. Good job to whoever named all these teams. UIU, Psycho Shinobi, Alpha 3, Nasser, of course, Esports, Dynamite. I love the name Dynamite. I'm not sure where All In came from, but it works. It works. And whoever designed the logos as well, good job. Good job to them for creating these logos, which is really cool. Now, obviously, all 6 of these teams are really strong. And before I kind of talk about, what my predictions are in terms of what the teams are, I do want to address one of the things that somebody else mentioned in the chat that I do feel like is kind of an issue, is that they don't have the amateur portion of this. So, last year there was the people who tried to get the votes in there. There was the people who competed in tournaments to try to win a spot. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about Street Fighter League in the past year was that we got to see a lot more of the lesser known players, right? So we had, for example, we got to see a lot more of players like El Chicote. We got to see Just a Kid. We got to see, a whole... Oh, wait. Right, so the amateur, I guess there is the city-based team, so I guess that's what they're using for that now. And that's, I feel like it would be cool if they had a chance to shine on the actual league itself. Because a lot of those players that we got to see actually, started making names for themselves. Dual Kevin is doing really, really well in tournaments right now after being on the Street Fighter League. I feel like even though Samurai hadn't even done super well in a lot of the tournaments recently, he's been doing super. He made such a name for himself in the Street Fighter League last year. So, I feel like that's the part that I kind of am sad about. I'm sad that, a lot of the guys that we see here are the people that we see a lot in tournaments already. A lot of these guys are going to be the players that we've seen at events, so I don't feel like this is going to give as much opportunity to shine for a lot of the, lesser known players, which always kind of makes me sad. Because I like trying to give those guys a more of a chance to show their talents, to show their skills. And I mean, obviously, what we're gonna get, however, what we're gonna get is amazing Street Fighter. We're gonna get some of the highest level Street Fighter that we could possibly imagine. But as I said, you know, at the cost of not being able to give some other people time to shine, which, you know, is probably my biggest, you know, I wouldn't say complaint, but the part I'm most sad about seeing these teams. We don't get a chance to see a lot of the, I mean, it would be cool if they had these super teams, but then they also had, like, maybe added a fourth person that could be added to each of the teams, and maybe they just designed it so those guys played each other for extra points or something, you know. Somehow they could have tweaked the format to have room for some of them, because even the Japan League last year did that. I'm not even sure if they're doing that again this year or not. If anybody in the chat actually has any information on what Japan is doing, because even Japan, they always had, you know, one of the quote amateur people in there when they, some of them weren't even really amateurs. But yeah, it'd just be a shame that we don't get to see more players that we don't see all the time in tournaments, because clearly you look at this list, every one of these guys, we've seen them many times in tournaments. They've all had amazing success in tournaments, and so we're not going to get a chance to see a lot of the other guys in there. But, you know, having said that, you look at these teams, clearly, I mean, it's funny because, like, everyone looks at Team Dynamite, and obviously Problem X, Evo champion, Knuckle-Doo, former Capcom Cup champion, Smug, just one of the most entertaining and awesome players of all time, all on one team. That's going to be one of the teams that stands out to a lot of people as the one to pick. But again, I'm not sure if that's necessarily a fair thing to do, because, like I said, Team Nasser, we've got Angry Bird and Big Bird, two of the strongest players, you know, on the planet right now. Clearly, they've been having so much success, and we've already seen what Samurai can do when put in this Street Fighter League environment. We can see what he's already done, and I would love to pick Team Nasser as potentially one of the ones that can win this whole entire thing. However, then you look at Team All In, and there's current Capcom Cup champion Idom, who you can't ban anymore. You can't ban him anymore. In fact, it was because of Street Fighter League last season that he picked up Poison, and now he's even scarier, because how do you ban him? How do you ban him? There's nothing you can do, right? And at this point, maybe you ban G so that 801 Strider doesn't have G, but you don't think 801 Strider is going to have other characters ready to go. He was on Street Fighter League last season. He knows the situation. Phenom's got Nikali, Phenom's got Karen, Phenom's got, I'm sure, many other characters to go with. Then you're looking at Team Alpha, and, you know, before it was like, you know, David and I used to joke that Punk could have me and David on his team and they would win Street Fighter League, because how do you beat Punk? You know, Punk maybe has seemed a little more human because he got, second place, washed up Punk, you know, versus Idom. But clearly, Punk is still the alpha. He's still one of the best. And you're not going to knock CJ Truth and Nephew as well. Those two players, you know, so good and so talented. So, again, you know, I feel like that team has a very strong shot. Shinobi, like I said, Cien, Infectious, Hot Dog. There's nothing you can say about this except, again, awesome talent all around. Psycho Shinobi, Hot Dog 29 won the Capcom NA Regional Finals. Infectious just beat Punk in a 1st to 10 pretty solidly now. Granted, Punk wasn't using his main character, and a lot of people are going to say that, but like 99.5% of the planet can't beat Punk when Punk isn't using his main character. Okay, Infectious might have been one of the only ones, and even after the whole thing was done, we had Hameko and Daigo even commentating that they couldn't figure out how Infectious beat Punk. They were like, he was just doing weird things and stuff was happening. And then Cien, of course, the Eternal Scientist, and then Team UIU, Oil King has been very, very strong. Always been one of the strongest players. Great Rashid, and I'm actually excited about this because if you look at the rest of it, maybe outside of Big Bird, there's not a lot of Rashids in here, and a lot of people have been saying Rashid is still the best character in the season. I personally am not convinced of that. I actually personally don't necessarily believe Rashid is still the best character. He got nerfed a lot. And a lot of people said that he was the best based off of V-Skill 2. They were like, why would you give him this crazy thing? honestly, I don't even think that's his best V-skill. I still think V-skill 1 is better. And so you have a Rashid who's going to play mostly the same as last season, and with a bunch of nerfs. Now, okay, right, Vi, yeah, Rashid is still great. Do I think he's clearly number 1? I've seen some tier lists where he is number 1, and I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure, because I think most people are going to go with V-skill 1. I really do think most people are going to go with V-skill 1, Alex, in the end, because being able to cancel Tornado and to roll forward, I think is just super, super effective way to get in, and losing that, I feel like, is kind of a problem. NL, of course, one of the greatest players. You can't really ban him either. I think the wild card here is a little bit with Kami, but Kami has really been showing his strength. And again, he's been dominating, doing really well in a lot of tournaments with Akuma. And he has also had a really strong Nakali in the past. So he's another player that's not going to be banned. What's really interesting about this is we see a pretty decent crop of players here who I don't think can be banned. Like Smug, Problem X can play everybody. Knuckle can play everybody. Smug can play everybody. That is the quintessential unbannable team. Yes, I agree with that, Alex. I agree with that 100%. Is that V-Skill 2 is the V-Skill that will kill everybody who hasn't played against it or who hasn't labbed against it. That is 100% true. If you don't have it ingrained in your head, you have to sit down and fight V-Skill 2 a bunch of times. It's like Lancelot in Grand Blue Fantasy Versus. If you haven't fought against V-Skill 2 a lot, if you haven't fought against Lancelot in Grand Blue Fantasy, it is going to seem almost unstoppable and you will be destroyed. Once you learn how to fight those things, clearly they're still very good. I'm not saying that they become beatable. They're both Lancelot and V-Skill 2 are both very, very strong, but you can manage it a little bit better. And I think in the end that V-Skill 1 might be a little bit better. Right, and again, you got to know how the players utilize the tools. So most top players, of course, know the matchup, but you know, you are going to be able to squeeze out a bunch of free victories using V-Skill 2 for Rashid very, very quickly, very early on in tournaments, because I don't think a lot of people have quite labbed against it a lot. But again, you know, these teams are pretty ridiculous in my opinion. I'm really excited to see how these teams match up against each other. I'm really excited, and it's going to be a lot of fun. As I said, the thing that makes me the most sad is just the fact that we're not going to get a lot of the beginners in there. Now, I did see that, you know, it's, I'm not sure the exact start date, but I do believe I saw someone mention that it will be late April that it's going to start. But yeah, dude, it would be so cool if, like, if we could, like, on all... See, that's the thing, right? If they could just expand the size of the team and maybe kind of give roles to different players, but obviously a lot of these players, if you look at this roster here of, 18 players here, it definitely skews very young. It definitely skews very young, and I would love to see it if we could create a system by which, you remember how the All-Star Game did that thing that one time, a long time ago? They would always have, the current pro player, the kind of, older school veteran player, and then go up, and then random celebrity on a team, and they would play 3v3. I feel like that would be kind of what I think that would be cool if we could figure out a way to do like these teams, but then put like a veteran coach on all the teams, and then one younger player on the team, and just figure out a way to get them in there. And yeah, for sure, Alex, that this is what people want to see. They want to see like the strong players. But for me, like I said, one of the reasons why that I enjoyed old school Street Fighter League. Last year's not old school. Last year's Street Fighter League was because we had a lot of the new faces in there. We had a lot of the players that got a chance to just kind of display their talents and show the world how strong they were, because like I said, it was cool to give them that chance. It was cool to give them that opportunity. So I don't know, right? Naruto, Uzumaki, like, I don't even know if any of these teams really have a weak link. I think they're all pretty solid through and through. There's no player on any of the teams that have any sort of weak link. They're all very, very capable of doing damage and being very, very strong. So, but yeah, I think Street Fighter League is going to be really exciting this year. Obviously, like I said, we're definitely going to get higher quality matches. And, you know, what I'm sure Capcom is hoping for is that the finals team, you know, during Capcom Cup, I'm sure they're going to do another Street Fighter League finals at Capcom Cup this year again as well. Or, you know, sometime during the year that the Team Worlds will have a better chance going up against Team Japan. Although last year our representative going up against Team Japan was pretty freaking broken too, with NuckleDo, Rob TV, and Shine. That was a pretty strong team, but you know, I think they're trying to give maybe a little bit of time. Yeah, they film all the episodes in like a week. Basically, they fly them all out. They film it all. I mean, no, they actually fly them out week after week and film them and stream them live. So whenever you hear the commentators say things like this happened yesterday or this will happen tomorrow, they meant next week and stuff like that. You know, when someone says, oh, earlier today this happened, they meant earlier in the season. You know, they're tired. They're being flown out every week. So, you know, it's complete. Gosh, it's so exhausting. There you go. I laugh because I hurt, Starix. You're right. Flights are very cheap right now. Flights are very cheap. But again, should be starting late April. Should be a lot of fun. Should be exciting. Again, that's going to be Team UIU with NL from Korea, Oil King from Taiwan, Kami from East Coast US, Infectious from the UK, Hot Dog 29 from Hong Kong, Cien from Singapore, Phenom from Norway, Idom from East Coast, United States, 801 Strider from Utah, United States, Nephew's Midwest, if I'm not mistaken, or is he East Coast? I believe Nephew is Midwest. Punk from now West Coast. Punk is now a resident of Northern California. CJ Truth from Florida in the U.S. NuckleDo from Florida in the U.S. Problem X from the U.K. Nephew moved out to NorCal? Oh, that's right. He did, and he and Punk are roommates now. You're right. So Nephew is now also in NorCal. That is correct. Problem X from the UK, Smug, the third member from New York after Kami and Idom. And then Big Bird and Angry Bird from the UAE, and Samurai from Northern California. Yes, that's right. I had forgotten about that. That's right. Nephew was East Coast, and now he is NorCal. That's right. Dude, it's crazy. It's crazy. This is going to be a fun season. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to have a blast with it. But if you guys are watching this here on Twitch, I'm probably going to transition over to Ask jchensor in just a second. But for those of you on YouTube who are watching this right now, make sure you like and subscribe. Let me subscribe. Let me know down below in the comments which of these teams you think is the most broken and which of these teams you think might be the weakest right now. I'm really curious to see what you guys think on that one as well. But for those of you here on Twitch right now, don't go anywhere. I'll be right back with the Ask jchensor section where you guys can ask me any question you want, and I will just have a little chat with the viewers, and then immediately after that I will be doing the Grand Blue Fantasy versus Beginner and System Mechanics Guide. So don't go anywhere. I will be right back for those of you here on Twitch.